All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Awakening Dragons. We have Alessandra here. I'm Katara, and I've also got my precious little baby dragon Ryu here. So you might hear him. He might make a guest appearance. I am delighted to have Alessandra here, and we probably met on one of the Dragon Thunder summits maybe last year. She paints the star beings, the dragons, the fairies, and unicorns that come to her in visions. She lives in Italy, leading retreats in sacred sites, revealing ancient history of local oracular priestesses. And she also channels energy healing for groups, one-on-ones, with words, with tribal-galactic light language sounds, crystal bowls, and shamanic drums. And also there's ceremonies and workshops and seminars for personal development. So let's begin by saying I am also in Italy, a little bit more north. I'm by Lake Como. And I think we are intending to talk about the lands that we're on, whether we're visiting or living on, and maybe if that has deeper meaning, we'll definitely talk about dragons. Actually, I want to showcase that this beautiful background here is a beautiful vision that Alessandra brought through of myself and my son. So welcome. Tell me, how are you? What has been going on for you in all the dimensions?
Well, I feel like there's multiple streams of maybe messages and beings that want to come through. So dragons, I feel they're coming. In fact, I got a sorts of this is my dragon stuff. But the biggest surprise for me is this. This is a Japanese Kirin, which is a Japanese version of unicorn, but they have it more as a chimera presence. So it has goat features, lion features, and it's on fire. And we call it a unicorn. We call it Japanese unicorn. But this is a big deal. This presence, I keep seeing what I call unicorn Kirin. And I was really excited because when I looked at the Japanese mythology of it, it was what I was seeing. It was confirming what I'm seeing. So there are these unicorn beings that are coming in during a time of just society, where we need a just society and we need guardians of it. So look at you and look at me. I feel like we look similar. The backgrounds are similar. I feel like there's something big about you and me and just society, which then can be explained in many different ways. And oh my gosh, that's something to do with Italy. So that's where I'm
So
coming from right now.
how long? I know you weren't always in Italy. I know you have obviously part lineage Italian. So did you feel that something called you back to the lands? And has your work evolved or changed a lot since being back here in Italy?
Yes. So for months I was in, so I lived in America, I lived in Chicago, I lived in California, Chicago. So total America about 20, 23 years that I've been, a chunk of my adult life, all of my adult life. But I began to have these weird dreams that were really astral, shamanically flying over the lake in Italy, Bracciano, that I grew up. As yes, I kept flying. And it was ecstatic at nighttime, but it was traumatic during the daytime because I received traumas in Italy. I left Italy. It wasn't just my father, it was just different people. It was just so much trauma around Italy, obviously past life. So I got tricked to move to Italy despite the panic attacks because my beloved sister, who was living in Thailand, she applied I don't know, 30 different jobs all over the world, Dubai, China, blah. She lands in Italy. So my sister lands in Italy and I get tricked to be there. And so I literally was soul called, but it was good and bad because I mean, I could truthfully maybe say that for a whole year I was laying in bed going through panic attacks. That could be one version. Um, so it's a soul call. But then you answered, has my work changed? And it has, and thank you for asking me because I haven't didn't think about things. You know, you do things and they're natural to you. But Medusa came to me. And Medusa, we think, oh, is that Greek mythology or is that Roman mythology, or do we know because they're the same and I don't know who stole who from who? So then it was a while, and it was actually when I was working in Japan, working with snakes and dragons, that the Medusa energy started coming in more. But in Italy, there was more of a here's the true story. So the land of Italy has been talking to me, the land elves, the fauns, the centaurs, these mystical creatures were talking to me more because Italy as a country got weirder or poorer for the common people. And so my work has radically changed. I was, at first, I was in 2014. So I started working in 2006, but in 2014, I was channeling star beings. But now I'm more about there's a hidden truth and there's a link in Italy and it has something to do with the Vatican and there's suppressed power and there's the mothership of something that needs to be released and has something to do with the symbolic story of Medusa, where they say she was raped and beheaded. And I'm thinking, but my research shows that she was the primordial goddess symbol of 10, 20,000 years ago in caves and matriarchal cultures. And I have backup from archaeologists like Maria Gimbutas who make that same connection. So I'm saying, oh, we just have a distorted story here, but the power is still really here. So there's this entanglement of being in Italy where it's like really bad but really good. That's that's where I'm at.
I think you've only opened about like 30 different topics that we could like tap into right there. But firstly, saying, I mean, I totally resonate with your similar path being called here because of family. So my husband's Italian. And whilst I knew that I wasn't meant to stay in Australia, because that's where I temporarily was for 4 years, and I was, deep diving into my own things, there was just this urge in it, it had already begun. And I've moved around. I'm originally from Canada. And then one day it was just like, you know what, Europe's really calling. But, it could be random. Why would we go anywhere else if we could go back to Italy? So we have been here a few months and it's been a whirlwind. I mean, the beings haven't gone galactic for me per se, but obviously Dragon's really present. And it's beautiful that you're commencing this session with bringing the Japanese unicorn. So my son's name is Ryu, which is Japanese for dragon. And I don't know if you know, but the Asian dragons are also quite different than the Western dragons. They also have the antlers of whatever and the claws of this and the face of that and the scales of, right? So I'm feeling that. And it is like there's such magnificent creatures, like really wielding a lot of the power from all of these different beings and creatures. So that's number one. And because I'm right off the lake, the beings that I'm really introduced to, and thankfully, because I feel so much of their strength and power, is like the beings of the lake, the beings of the mountains. So it really is the land that has been saying hello. And I feel that maybe because I was just, with my head down in pregnancy and in birth and with the baby, like I haven't allowed myself to open my eyes and see all the other layers and all the other beings. So I can't wait to connect into this energy. But I'm definitely feeling you with all the uncovering as well, and that maybe dormant truth and dormant power that lays underneath. So how do you think that affects kind of culturally and society in general? Because that distortion is present, probably in all the ways and in all the areas of our life, but that power is still there. Like, what does that look like? What does that show up like for people who live here and that power is there, but it's distorted?
Yeah, that's really mixed because being Italian, I grew up in Italy, but I went to an international school, so I was in an international bubble. So I'm coming back to Italy as half Italian, but living with an American adult brain. I come back here, and it's one of the reasons why I was called here. And you have this really weird mix of people that are naturally down to earth, that they're naturally trusting the herbs. They're eating extremely healthy because their uncle has not even a farm, but a garden, and they get the basil from there. Their friend over there has oranges. So it's all very Mother Earth centered. There is a respect for that. Um, they there is a strong religious feeling. I don't know among everyone, but it's usually the women. There is this strong uh, spirituality that's alive, and a sacredness. There is a sacredness, and family is sacred. So there's a lot of things that I feel as an adult in America, I was missing. I didn't feel the sacredness anywhere, and I didn't feel that connection, that direct familiar connection to the land. Like so many people here will give you a jar of honey that they have from their honey, from their bees. And so you just have homemade everything from earth. Um, there is this might be interesting, a good and bad, distorted over attachment to the mother, but it might make sense because everybody goes home. You go to home to mom or grandma or someone's friends or grandma that are cooking phenomenal food. I mean, they're making the pasta with the eggs and everything from scratch. They're making real food, and so they're very attached to this mother thing up to the point, and I have so many biases where the men have not really separated from their mothers at all. So you've got this good power of it, but then it's unbalanced. You get from, I don't know what it's, interdependency to codependency to something like that. There's something else I wanted to add. So having lived in America where there was major genocide, the stripping of the land and the stripping of the native indigenous, even though native indigenous are still there, America as a whole and as the energy in the land, it's sterilized. Whereas you come to Italy and somehow, even though you have Catholicism, the churches and everything, somehow the witches or the healers are hidden in plain sight, and the land has not been as raped, is that, if that's the right word. And so the land is still alive. I'm living in a nature reserve of woods, and there's a lake here too, and there's all woods around, and it has been really relatively untouched at all. Whereas America was plowed down, because I learned the Native Americans had the mounds and other things, but they've been plowed. So it's really odd, but it's maybe this is about power, because there is all this power. So you see and the mother has the power here too, and do this and don't do that, but there's a huge distortion. So it's almost like working with an atomic bomb or nuclear energy, where there is so much, but you just don't do it right, and then something goes really wrong.
Mm. But how much and how can we, and this is really interesting because obviously I'm also a different culture, right? So I'm Chinese, and we also have probably lots of conditioning and lots of stereotypes about how the moms and the women are and the men and the fathers. So like obviously, we are interested in the deeper meaning and the spiritual, but how much of this can we just attribute to, oh, that's just culturally how it is? And how much is because there is this imbalance, maybe in that raw power, and therefore it comes through in how people are raised. Oh, reuse agreeing. Do you know what I mean in that question? Like how much is just a cultural upbringing and conditioning, and how much is really there's this potency? Yeah.
It's just so intermingled. And then now, I think now we're getting to the topic of the word patriarchy, which triggers people. And I just use the word culture or society, and how things are deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained. And I think maybe it comes down to how we, as people throughout the ages in the culture and society, how we're channeling being male and female. And then you look at America. So you've been in Australia, and now you're here in Italy, and then before Canada. But what I'm hearing about America is this odd expression that's coming out with the gender, like he, she, they, them, and this. So I think this is the topic, where how are we channeling the male female frequencies? That I think that's it. I think that culturally there is some imprisonment that is trying to break out, if that makes sense, and this power is trying to be harmonized, I think, and not pushed into. male, female, or male in this way and female in that way,
Mm.
to the point of characterization. I mean, you have female now with blown up fake lips, it, body parts put in and inflated. I mean, it's a caricature. When you're looking at that, then you're saying something's broken in our psyche in regards to what we are thinking or what culture is funneling or what's the word, tight, strangling into what we think is male, female.
Yeah, and all of these things that you're mentioning about the masculine, feminine, like I'll add to the mix, I also lived in the Middle East and I also lived in Eastern Europe. And I'm from Canada.
Oh,
So 26 years of my life was in Canada. And in each of these places, how that masculine and feminine energy interacts and the conditionings and stereotypes and norms are vastly different. And I find that so fascinating because here we are now, and it's like another thing to explore, I guess.
well, here we are now in Italy, and Italy is 20 years behind on things of women. And we don't even have the words in Italian. We don't have the terms for women empowerment at all. We don't have the words for women movement. There's the closest thing we have to that is help battered women, which is taking one part out of a bigger thing.
And so, how are these beings working with you, through you? And are you working with a lot of local people? I'm wondering, like, how is the mentality and openness of people here? Are they ready for this kind of work?
So first of all, these beings are yours and mine. So you're going to have to answer this question too, if you remember the question, because this big conference is you and me in the portal and Rio, brand new Rio. I mean, Rio just came through a portal, and so he is the portal. So there's something happening here. Um, Local people are, so you have, it's interesting to understand Italy. You got local little villages, Italy, that are country folk. And then you go in the city like Rome, and there aren't that many big cities, really. You got Rome, Milan, and I don't know, Naples isn't that big. So the mentalities, um, people are wanting and willing, especially women, to 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 feel more, or to, but they don't have the time or energy because they're overgivers and they've given everything. So I'm developing programs called the narcissist and the empath, and that is really popular in Italy if they have the time to come, the time, because they give their time. Everything is to everything and everyone else. Um, so that's my biggest theme and topic is the narcissist, which is the whole culture of the Vatican, Italian culture, male, female, and the sensible, the sensitive person. Because the dynamics that I'm observing, even as a culture, is if I ask someone that I don't know, I got lost with my car, like, how do I get to that bar or da da da? And they'll say, yeah, I mean, you go left, you know? And they're acting, and you're like, I just got gaslighted just to ask for directions, and that is the normal. So the way my sister says it, because she's living here, she's the one from Thailand, she's like, Italians are assholes to each other. And so as a healer, you got to break down everything you're doing to bring it down to the lowest common denominator and saying, but each country has it, but in different ways. What do people here really need? What do you really need? And that's hard. One last thing I want to add is that the one thing that I'm seeing that's very successful in Italy is family constellations. Have you heard of that?
I have, and I have seen how popular it is, and it is very interesting as people are, I guess, reorienting themselves, reorienting maybe how they relate in the family. Yes, I have noticed how popular it is here.
So my theory is that it's extremely dramatic, which is good and needed for Italians, because working in an environment with Italians, they are not professional, they outburst and everything. So family constellations is very dramatic and it's visceral. So it must be evidence for them that things are unfolding, and talk about family dynamics. Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
certainly makes it interesting. So the narcissist and the empath, do you also relate it to typically the narcissist is male or female, or typically the empath is male or female?
Absolutely, yes. But in this case, especially in Italy, you got the narcissist can be your father, your uncle, the culture, what's expected of you, the male-female dynamics and the roles, your own son against you, women. So it's mixed because we're in a caboodle. We're in a mix here. So it's not your typical stuff that we have in USA and other places. This is more about, because mostly it's always women that come to things, but especially in Italy, and women are recognizing I'm more sensible, I'm more sensitive, I have these intuitive feelings, and it's more of a culture also that I'm looking at. Not to mention, and I have to mention this, that pedophilia and being gross and old men and younger girls and women is normalized. But are we surprised? We have the Vatican right here. So, I mean, people make comments, people look. I grew up with an incredible amount of old men being very inappropriate with me in different ways. I was being unsupervised. My grandma was over there. It was the village person over there. So talk about the narcissistic and the empath. It's got a very wide range of things to talk about
Mm.
for
So
the
you
people here.
mentioned we mentioned the Vatican a couple of times, and look, we're like probably everyone's gone down some conspiratorial holes on what the Vatican's all about, but because religion is such a pervasive energy in the fabric of being Italian, even if you don't believe in religion itself, like it's just woven in the tapestry of who you be, right, at the moment. So how do you think that people would they accept, would they even admit that it's because that kind of energy is in their very DNA, and that's the reason that these things emerge, right? Because if somebody, and I might even use my husband for example, like he's not religious whatsoever, and we don't have a positive view of the Vatican. Right, but to make that link to say, oh, it's because you're born in these lands and the energy of this is in you, do you know what I mean? Like,
I will give you an
people make that
example.
relation. How can they make
I
that
will
relation?
make you an example that I think answers this. I think it will. Because I agree with you. A lot of people, especially men, don't go to church. They don't care about the Pope or whatever. But there still is the celebrity status of the Vatican. There really still is a celebrity status of the Pope said this and that. But I was at a party, this was a few years ago. A party where you sit down and eat food and drink wine. It was a dinner party. Um, and there was a guy I had a crush on, Italian man. And he was a bit of a conspiracy theorist like I am, but it has a bad word. And so very open and aware about things. And there was another guy too that was really open. And then there was this third man, whatever. Somebody starts saying a joke and they say, there was this man and a pedophile, and then there's this little kid, and da 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 da. And I just got up and I said, are you kidding me? Did you just make a joke like that? Stop talking about that joke. I was like, this is BS. I stood up and was dramatic Italian style using Italian language. Like, I'm getting up. I have nothing to do with this. And what made it worse was the wife. I remember the wife of the man telling the story didn't say anything. It was very bad pedophilia thing, but then it was a joke. And it's like, you are using that as a joke and it's normalized, and your wife is not standing up for that. And these two men that I thought were interesting men because they were conspiracy theories, they were open to goddess theory. I was, so the answer is it's ingrained, and stuff is normalized because it's normal
Yeah,
to talk like that. So that
but
that
when
just
it's
shows
so
you in a snapshot.
ingrained, if it's so ingrained and this is like coming into everyday conversation, right? And let's that wife didn't speak up. It's like, when will we have enough power, effort, energy, enough people to stand up to it or for it, that it will actually change the tide because
So
it's so ingrained, right?
my feeling is that there's a lot of things that you're doing. I don't know you too well as a human, but we've connected, and I don't know you too well energetically, but we have connected. So I believe that there's people like you and me and people around the world, but you and me are in Italy right now, so let's talk about that. I think that there is a systematic dismantling of the platforms of power that were erected, let's say during the time of ancient Rome or other these structures. We can call them physical structures, like the Vatican was built, St. Peter's was built, so that we have these structures. But behind anything physical, then there's something energetic. So my feeling is that there's, and here's the big conference of all these beings that are around us. I feel that there has been a lot of dismantling of this, so that when that is the joke about pedophilia is talked about and normalized, more people are going to get up and say, "Are you kidding me? You gross piece of poop!" Like that's not acceptable. Do you understand? It's not acceptable, and that is dismantling something that for 40 years that stupid old man was saying that joke, and everybody laughed, and all of a sudden bad reaction. So that was a thing. So going back to the Vatican and visions, and I've brought people, I went there several times in ceremony as with thousands of people that didn't, they were there for a procession for the three kings of the Epiphany, which also is the same day that the Befana, she's known as a witch, but she was also connected to goddess Diana. So that you have pagan ritual and Christian Catholic ritual there. So I've been to the Vatican several times. It's an hour away from my house. I live out in nature. But then I brought people in a retreat to the Vatican. And so what we were seeing was, yes, you have this mothership. Yes, you have a center that has stolen shamanic powers and symbols from different religions all over the world. And yes, there's the yucky ick, that's can be so disgusting, like dark molasses. But there is white light that is melting away. And look at this image, and look at your image, and then look at you, and look at me, and look at you, and look at the frequencies that we are emitting that are melting away things that are unjust. So I don't see things as a war. I just see it maybe more as a struggle and a saying, well, your time is over. You had fun. Congratulations. But we're going to alchemize things, and we're going to melt things. And that being said, I had the retreat, and it was a year ago, more than a year ago, it was April. I'm getting my time space done. We saw this type of energy, this Kirin unicorn, come in big proportions, and it was spiraling up because we were at the center of St. Peter's, and there's this obelisk that we were working with, which is pink granite. And there was this unicorn that was spiraling up. And that's the thing with unicorns, is that they come at a time to say, we're now taking over. We are the guardians. We have been invited by the powers that be. We're here. Kind of, it makes me think a little bit of Shira, Princess of Power. She comes in with a Pegasus, she might even be a unicorn, and she's Valkyrie, and she's here. The concept of Valkyrie is also to help the dead go in the right place and help essentially the darkness progress, but move along. And so my feeling is these subtle energies. You must be so busy in your dream time and I keep seeing us as parallel times. There's some parallel aspect of us. I don't know if it's astral that is doing things. I see it in my clients. And so we're living double lives.
We are
So there's
so
a
in
lot of
double
activity.
lives.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's just a lot going on, and it should be on a positive newscast saying, and now the Vatican only has 33% power, whereas the rest is all this light is building up, but you can't see it
Yeah.
yet unless you tune in.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I mean, I think I'm very, again, head is into all the 3D stuff as well, raising a child. It's a new country. I don't know the language, so there's a lot of confrontation and challenge that meets me in the 3D world. But as I drop into the more subtle layers, and as I have these, beautiful and expansive conversations, as I sit in the lake and with nature, I can feel like there is so much bigger and deeper reason that, individuals and light beings and light warriors are called to where they are because of all this dismantling, as you call it. And I'm pretty sure that it's happening all around the world, right? These structures, those who are the powers that be, and the structures and systems that are no longer working, right? And it doesn't matter if the mainstream or the average person doesn't realize it or talk about it in the ways that we might. I think that even being a confrontative energy or different, because we could be a bit weird to some people, is enough to make them think differently, is enough to maybe just open, a glimmer of like, oh, this may not be true, or that could be different. And I think that a lot of people, should give themselves more credit to the light work that they do, because it doesn't always take the form of being a healer, doing ceremony. There's so much that, just a person's frequency and their being is disruptive, is assisting and breaking down of these systems that don't work. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like you're in a small town, aren't you? You're not in Rome itself. I'm currently in a small town, moving to a little bit bigger, but there's so much work that we do just by being who we are. What do you think of that?
I think so. I think that, either when we die or when we have a big vision or some, I keep saying, when you die, you're going to know everything. And so the feeling that I have more and more for myself and for my clients too, it's, oh my gosh, the ratio of importance, like write a book, be a channel, have a big YouTube channel, be seen and be effective to help, whatever the numbers are, 100, 200,000 people, la, 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 we think of that as, oh, you're a successful channel, you're doing it, you're changing the world. And the more that I'm turning into me and the people that I work with, it's like what I'm really seeing, the dismantling of the energies and the rebuilding of the energies comes from us being energy centers ourselves. And so I'm seeing us as walking temples, priestesses, temples, walking crystals, emitting all the time. And so that has more power. I think we're going to be satisfied when we know more. Say, oh, wow, that whole time that I was baking bread and struggling at work and just having trouble, and I didn't sweep my house well enough. It was really dirty. And I'm just being normal. I was successfully really broadcasting a frequency that was needed to rebuild and alchemize this world. So maybe a lot more of us are more effective at changing the world than the channels that have. I wanted to be that channel that has all those, the books and the
Yes.
things and that. Um, I think we all are. When I channel the cosmic whale grandmothers, and I have them here, they're the ones that really give the message of, um, you really all, everyone, mother, child, chimney sweep, this normal, you think you're all normal, you're the ones that are emitting incredible frequencies, and it's a recipe to alchemize the world. So, and we don't even have to be there doing Reiki every 5 minutes to the plants to change them. It's literally the thoughts that we have, that are the thought structures in the auric field. And now even beyond the auric field, we have the word the biofield, which sounds so cool and technical. And so who are we really? I think that's the thing. I always come down with the question is, what is our secret soul identity? What's your secret soul identity? But it's because it comes to what frequency are you emitting, that is changing things or affecting them. So if we have so many of us, then maybe the Vatican is slowly melting away without us having to go there. It's just the frequency is building up. Just to give an example of how the mechanics are.
Yes, totally. We don't actually physically need to be there. But yeah, as we said, we're here in Italy for a reason. And so what is this beautiful Japanese unicorn helping with? What, does she or he have a particular mission? Is it related to specific work here, global work? How are your beings? You said you had brought in Medusa first. I mean, obviously we both, connecting to the dragons, which has helped me a lot. We'll come to that. But yes, tell me more about the Japanese unicorn.
It's the Japanese unicorn, good, because so I didn't have names for it, and Japanese unicorn is one name for it. I keep seeing unicorns that are not unicorns, and that they're unicorns, but they're coming from somewhere else. And whenever you read Diana Cooper and other people, they're always saying a unicorn's a horse with a horn on it. And I'm like, but no, but you have this chimera being. It's a different being. I'm seeing these different beings. They're coming from new portals, they're coming from new places, and they have a lot of, it's funny, some of them are very slender and deer-like, and I have seen them on Japanese Shinto shrines. It's a deer-like white. I know that that's a mythological creature for them, in addition to the Kirin. There's something else. So there's a few mythologies coming together. But and then I see giant unicorns coming in. So there is, simply put, there's a changing of the guard. That's really what it is. But in addition to that, there is power like a guardian coming in to say, we are coming in, we're taking over. But there's also something about with these Japanese, I want to call them dragons because then dragons comes in too, because then there's a dragon unicorn. So there's new frequency beings that are coming in to say enough, and to start Castaway. Um, but I think that we're calling them, and I think it's related to you and to me and our frequency mix that we have, that's very multidimensional, that we are aware of, that we are unfurling our wings, so that we have been making the call. So they're here because of people like you and me who are broadcasting like lighthouses. And so these beings are coming. So these beings are new ways, new realities, quickly, very quick turnaround, just society. But we've been talking about this since 2012, or some people since the convergence with harmonic convergence that happened in the 80s. So, but there's something happening that's more quick and more real that is unfolding. So this is power, backup, but also political structure that is coming to help. But it's also personal too for us. I think it helps us keep broadcasting the way that we've been wanting to broadcast, and to lessen the noise. When I moved to Italy, there is a lot of noise of, you're not good enough, you're not right, people have extreme low self-esteem, and there is dark frequency, just like there is in any country.
Yes, and probably I'm still, in that guck, because sometimes I feel like, oh, wait a second, I've completely forgotten that I've got this council of beautiful beings, that we've got all this support. When I was in the birth portal with Ryu, I mean, it was surreal, right? And again, your everyday decisions and actions can also be broadcasting, signaling that change is coming. And it was hilarious because the pediatrician that came, we invited like a private pediatrician over at the home. He's like, he's retired now, but he came. He said, this is the second person who's had a home birth in this area in the last 40 years. I mean, it shows you
Whoa.
change. It's not a big thing. I mean, I think it is becoming more of a thing. I think statistically published, it's only 1%. But anyway, it's like just by being that change and talking about it brings about different awareness. So when I was
Talk
in
about it.
the, yeah, talking about it, it's like, oh, wow, you had a home birth. And when I was in that portal, literally, it was so surreal. I was like, obviously, so in my body and feeling all the pains and all the sensations. But I was also like equally way out there in the cosmos. Literally felt like I was out there reaching to grab his soul and to bring it down. And I can feel the dragon energy. And I mean, at that time, it was like too much is going on. Like, is this his dragon? Is this my dragon? these energies, these beings, these frequencies are absolutely here with so much love, with so much guidance, if we're willing to seek them, seek it. And I feel like dragon has come into life at a time when truly, of course, working with alchemy, transformation, and all the things that dragon might stand for, but also to really stay in the heart, in the heart, in the high heart, in my, heart of hearts, and the soul mission, really to keep us in line almost. But when I say line, I mean like in the light. So I wonder, your work probably has evolved and changed as you've grown and as you've come back here. Like, has the creatures, have the beings, do you see the theme of why they're showing up? How are they helping and guiding you to be more effective and true to yourself? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, so I can give another example. So there's a being that I met, a dragon, that looks a lot like your dragon version, you as a dragon. You look really cute and sweet and motherly in this image, and there's different versions of you. There's these gossamer, wet wings, water wings that your image has, that you have. And the dragon that I saw, the only difference with her is she had a very scary dragony face that might be more of a Western, scary look, lizardly like, but gorgeous because she was a mix. And I met her when I was at some ancient ruins that then are part of the retreat. It was an old port town for the Romans, but really it was a full temple ground of water temples for the Etruscans before that. She came to me from the sea and she was fine. I had met so many dragons that needed to be released from the churches, and she had happy power to offer me. And I brought an Italian woman friend of mine who's connected to Canada, by the way, but she's Italian. She's older than me. She's 60 something. And I introduced her to dragons. She's already open to shamanism and Reiki. And she's very local. She lives here. That changed her life. The concept of there is hope, there are beings, there are things, this is the land. Like, otherwise, I have to say, her life has been a life of suffering. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but the women here, so unless they divorced their husbands or something, I mean, she had her this is normal, but her kids living with her up until they're 33, 30 something, and she's 60 something, and she's cleaning houses and her body hurts. But she met the dragon, and now she's meeting dragons. And so it's the feeling of the land has something to give back to the women here if we have ways to help them access it. And either it's wacky and weird and it's dragon language, or I'm taking people to sacred sites and saying, a long time ago, the world wasn't dominated by masculine distorted energy, not men, but masculine distorted energy with war and decapitating women and raping them. But before them, there was the Sibyls right here. And so that's one way of showing them and saying, and the Sibyls came
Whatever
from
works,
that.
right?
Yeah, whatever. And there's that. Um, but so the women here are seeking for something, and their religiousness and sacredness is shifting to, but where is the goddess, and where am I, and there's something more. It's so off and wrong. There's got to be something more. I think that they're at the point where eat, pray, love, which it's
Yeah.
coming at it a different way. It's funny because she had everything right in her life, and then she collapsed and said, there's got to be more to this. Whereas I think the Italian women have too many pressures on sorts of things, and they're saying, okay, then there's got to be something more to this.
Well, I
So
had a similar thing as the eat, pray, love situation. Everything was fine. I had all the superficial success on the outside. I was making good money. I was living the good life, but it was recognizing there was that feeling of, okay, surely this isn't just it. It was like this lack of fulfillment. And that is actually what propelled me onto this journey. We don't have to call it a spiritual journey. It's just a journey of like, who am I and why am I here? And so coming back to, again, I guess more local and more Italian, like, do you think that people they need to get to that breakdown before they realize it though. Like I truly hope and trust that people like us and other coaches, facilitators, practitioners can get to people before they have these meltdowns and breakdowns. You know, like do they even realize that life can be different? Because I'm kind of, you know, I haven't interacted with heaps of people, but sometimes I just feel like I'm not even sure that they're looking. I'm not sure they realize sometimes, and I'm just generalizing. Okay, I'm not specifically saying the man or the woman or any particular problem. This could be just a societal wide problem. Like people don't realize sometimes how unfulfilled, how disconnected they are. Do we feel that people are ready? Do they need to reach breakdown before they reach out for deeper meaning in life?
Are you talking about Italian people right now, or were you talking about people in general?
Yeah, let's just Italian, like in the people we're seeing and dealing with on an everyday,
Well,
like
that's
your
the
day
funny thing is
jobs, for
because when
example.
we're talking about Italian people, I feel like there's at least two categories. The people that have, and it's either the poor, the poor or the richer, and the dynamics are very different. It's very different. So I think that the richer are seeking, they're seeking for meaning. There's an emptiness. They're seeking for something in Italy, and then the poor are they're in a, it's like a rat race, and there's just no time. They have signed up for so many things. They're just, um, and I know I'm generalizing and I'm speaking from the little village and from the experiences I'm having. Um, I know people are doing the family constellation. I maybe the answer is the same for everyone. Some people really need to bash their head against the wall and have a complete rock bottom breakdown. Some people get the aha moments. Some people read the signal, and some people go through the regular things that help them wake up, illness, divorce, or the death of a family. And so, in the end, those are the ones for everyone. But the thing, there's something that frustrates me and makes me sad about the Italy that I know. And again, because Rome, now I'm traveling into Rome, there are international people, but those are the international people. The regular Italians that I'm meeting are, it feels to me far back, coming from an American mentality, or Canada or Australia or the England, UK. You're coming from that it's ingrained in the culture that your husband can do a pedophile joke, or they can do a joke about a prostitute being beat up. I mean, this is a culture that up until a few years ago was whistling down the street saying they want to have sex with you and stuff. I mean, so there is something special going on in Italy, and the women and the change. Hmm.
So what can we advise everyone, including myself, right? Like, so if I just came to you and say, Alessandra, I just moved to Italy, how can we, would it be, yeah, connecting to the land? Like, what would you advise people if they're on this path now? I guess now I want to, you know, you have so many offerings,
Okay,
you've got retreat
so
and all the things, but like, where would they begin?
well, the thing is, we've been talking about Italian men, people, the Vatican, but the land, I met a dragon that looks like you because of this land. And I hadn't been really meeting that many dragons. I met some. There's a lot of, the land is alive here. The land can talk to us. You have Goddess Diana as a whispery nymph that's coming back to life because people are believing in her. Just like people say, I do believe in fairies, I do. So there is a lot here to gather if you're led in the right way, if you can. It's, the land is saturated with really incredible frequencies, and on an even weirder level, I am seeing elementals coming back. I'm seeing star beings come back and settle into these places, even these unicorns that I see them so big. So there is something happening, and this is where people might say, oh, there's the two world split, right? So you see the negativity of how people react to the American politics and say it's the end, you know, we have sociopaths, blah, blah, and we can talk about the Vatican, and I can keep talking about how pedophilia is normal. But then the land, the sacredness, all these images of Mother Mary all over the place, you know, which has a negative and positive connotation, but you've got a goddess figure there that is treated as a goddess. So the land of Italy, and I'm going to go back to the ruins. the ancient ruins, a lot of them, and Ostia Antica, the one site where I met the dragon that looks like you, they are still alive with this positive water current energy coming up. So I think that maybe we do need more international us coming around, meeting, doing retreats or doing it online, and this will help the Italian women, or this will help Italy, and Italy being one of the center nodal points of brainwash that, and like America, that then can ripple through and help everything else. So the land is coming to life. The land and the beings and the dragons are in a way getting stronger. And you and I, and who knows who else are physically here. So there's something that is happening.
Yes, absolutely. Again, it is the land, right? I talked to the lake beings and the dragons, and I just knew that it was here that I had to be to give birth. Every time you mention the council and the meeting of beings around you, I laugh because I'm like, this is such a more interesting council of beings than the boardroom meetings I used to be in. So I'm curious if you would like to channel any messages from them, or if you like to make a little offering. I know that there's so much of your work I'd like to introduce, not just to the, world community that's listening, but maybe to some of my Italian friends who are here as well. So what feels aligned for you?
All right, so let's see what's coming in for now. So what's coming in is something that I'm really obsessed with, and it's this ancient site called Ostia Antica. It's northwest of Rome, so it's outside of Rome. It's on the sea. Ostia Antica is an ancient Roman port. It looks similar to Pompeii because it's so intact. You have 1 or 2-story buildings, and it has all these temples. And I keep mentioning that dragon, that dragon, that dragon. And so she's a dragon priestess, and she has a lot of powers. And so she is flying all over Italy, taking Italy as her body, let's say. And she has a lot of energy. I think that might be something that we're all missing, is just straight up energy. If I have the energy, I'll be happier. If I have the energy, I'll have better thoughts. If I have the energy, I will have better connection to my intuition. She's also bringing water and fluidity, especially needed in all parts of our body and in between our cells. She's also talking about rainbow and rainbow plasma energy, plasmatic energy, plasma known as just simple energy, fire, water, gas, and being more melded together as far as not even thinking of chakras anymore, but if all of our chakras are in alignment and then our whole auric field pops up like a dragon egg, then you don't see the differentiated chakras because they're all the same frequency. So it all melts into this plasmatic rainbow that we are. And so there are tons of gifts that are coming to us in different ways, especially in this year of 2025, that are coming to us through our dreams, through people, through our sentence. And we have this white dragon mother, the sea white dragon mother, that could be connected to Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. Having the word Mary, were water priestesses, but being a priestess meant you were a water priestess, because that is everything. The water in the womb, it's all one. So there is this feeling of intense, and I'm seeing and feeling intense light, intense unity. There is an awareness of, oh, sure, everything we've talked about, it's your human brain saying those things. But on the positive news level, there is power. There is power to reach and to access, whether we're getting it from the sun, from the Stargate of Aldebaran, from my favorite star, or other stargates, or from the earth. And right now I'm in Italy, we're in Italy, so these places are Italy centered. And there's this white mother dragon, the sea dragon, that is connecting all of this Italianness in the Italian land. and saying that there actually might be bonus surprises as far as bonus dragon eggs or bonus powers unique to this place that are the key, that are the solution. And this can be in any form. It can be energetic, it can be changing job, it could be gaining new friends, it could be finding the right healer, or it could also just be something that we're holding in our heart space of a key to help us reaccess more of this bigger energy that the land of Italy can offer us. If we think of Italy as the land of marble and different kinds of crystals and volcanic power, then we're talking about a recipe of a land that has a lot to offer to a lot of us fairy elemental beings and star beings. And the unicorns are coming in now too. And they're very big. They're as big as several stories high. And so they're these other kinds of unicorns that are saying justice is coming and you don't have to worry and worry about people being beheaded or things happening. You don't have to think about that kind of justice, but the justice of us witches and healers and martyrs and mothers, priestesses, queens that have been downtrodden for thousands of years. There is a heart opening and a restoration coming, and there's the love for our sons and our husbands and our fathers, and through that way they can receive a healing too. So there is a restoration of balance that is coming in an abstract way, and for us to just receive it. So if we are to receive two things from here and now, one is an Easter egg, which is funny. Is Easter coming along? So this Easter egg from this white dragon, water dragon that you represent so much. And then there is also this big unicorn that is flanking you so that you can feel, or we can feel, righteously protected. And for those of us that need and like the word protection, some of us think that you evolve the word and you say filter. So you have it's like a bodyguard that's he's the bouncer and he'll filter what goes in or what goes out your field. But we're talking about big energies that are world changing. So we might, from here on out, slowly uncover what we're doing with our dragon egg, white pearlescent dragon egg, and this just giant unicorn that is more than a unicorn.
That's beautiful. I love the bodyguard. And I have to say, I recently just bought a dragon egg lamp online. I mean, I've had, dragon eggs come to me, in my visions, and I'm like, I need a new baby lamp. I'm gonna buy a dragon egg. Anyways, all that you bring through, I think, is so relevant, so pertinent. And I like to tether that to remind everyone, in our daily doings and our daily mothering and our daily just being who we are in our daily jobs, like, just don't forget that you already are enough and you already are doing the light work. Like, this might be a reach for some people to talk about dragons and the unicorns, but I think it's important to remind people, like, the embodied and very practical human experience is needed. Like, we are spiritual beings coming here to have this human experience. We need to we need to anchor it into our everyday, to be that light, but to do it with love, in our conversations and our jobs and everything. Which you have a day job as well, I think. And so I'm sure that you're being this magnificence and bringing all your magical beings with you. And I think that that's an important thing to remind people. They don't need to be, they are cosmic and galactic, whether they can see these beings or not.
I think so. I think that is one of the most important messages I'm feeling right now, is that I think so many of us are frustrated in this world because we want to help the world, save the world, change the world. I think we come from the future where so much of this it's all barbaric, it's backwards. We know and we have lived in times that it's almost like future Lemuria, future Atlantis, or other or Arcturian. I know I come from the future where all of this, it doesn't make sense. And so to change, it's our frequency. And you know what I think the hardest thing to achieve in this lifetime is, at least for me, but I think for a lot of us, is to feel okay with yourself, love yourself, be happy, be fulfilled. If we can achieve that, then we're emitting a light like a lighthouse. I think that's simple and hard to do in our daily life, to feel that
Mhm.
we are affecting. I think we
Yes.
are. Yeah.
Simple but hard to do. I mean, even as we're filming this, and I'm always, appreciating and valuing every moment with my son. But I'm like, oh, why aren't you napping? We're supposed to be having a podcast. And I'm judging, myself. But as you say, it's self-love, it's love, but it's also intention. And my intention, and maybe our intention, is like, it's important to share these messages. It doesn't matter if it looks perfect, if it is perfect. Like, I'm just being real. And the reality is, this is where we're at. And thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thanks. Thank both of you.
All right, so I want to introduce some of your work. I think you have a retreat coming up or later in the year. So do you want to, I'm going to share all of the links to wherever you're seeing this podcast, but do you want to just talk a little bit of what you have coming up?
Okay, well, the retreat has been postponed. There's different reasons for that. We have done it before and we will do it again. I don't have a date. It could be September. But when we do retreats, we stay here in the sacred place Nemi, called the Sacred Woods of Goddess Diana. And we last for four days and 5 nights. And we have a van, and we have a van driver. The van driver is my sister, who's open to a lot of, she's an actually embodied dragon. And so the thing is, we're uncovering sacred ancient history. So we go to the sacred sites, and I will say the regular history of what we know. Again, there was one site that is on a cliff, and you have so much energy from this site. And again, it was called ancient Roman, but it's not, because it has polygonal walls, just like in Peru. And so we didn't know that Italy had these things. So there's a lot of this uncover ancient history, um, but to understand, where were the nymphs, where were the goddesses in relation to those times, and for us to have our own experiences. So that's retreat stuff. Food is all taken care of, pick up from the airport, all of that. As far as other offerings, there's Medusa, the heroine's journey. There's 5 steps in the heroine's journey. Then I offer mentorship, either 6 months or 3 months. 6 months is cheaper because it's slower in a way, softer. 3 months is intense. There's a lot of growth that happens with that, and that's been popular. And then I channel dragons and master guides, star beings, and I thought I was channeling something else visually. Or the unicorns are coming too. So, and I make oracle cards. So there's a lot of stuff going on. People just need to email me if they're interested in something.
Yes, and I'm sure one of those avenues and paths will find, hopefully people will find their way to you. And I do have your oracle cards, which again, it's that water dragon energy I was connecting to. Love them. As I said, this is the beautiful artwork. I'm like, which direction am I putting my hand? So absolutely. I love sharing your work. I'm going to have all the links. Thank you so much for your time and sharing all your light. I am sure that we are destined to meet in person soon-ish, whatever, since we're not that far from each other. We almost made it one time. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, we will. I'm sure that we will be meeting here. The land will bring us together.
the land, yes, it will. Thank you for your super brightness. You have such a very, it's not just big, it's the ingredients. You have such unique ingredients that you're bringing together, and with Ryu and with the portal. So there's something of you being a mother with your son, that you're doing something, and it's like, oh, are you in service to the world? What about you taking care of you? But there's something happening in Italy, and it's so needed. And it's almost like saying you brought in a dragon. You brought in a dragon to Italy, you know,
Yes,
where
an
all the
embodied
other
one, a
ones
live
were
one.
an embodied one. Yeah. So there's a lot happening. I hope you get to know more. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it be nice that we knew more about ourselves?
Absolutely. I think we only
Yeah.
scratch the surface. You know, once we think we know a little bit, we realize just how deep it goes. So I'm only
Mhm.
beginning to understand our soul stories and connections. Why are we incarnating? You know, why are we here and all the things. But anyway, as I said, we opened probably with like 30 different paths that we could have taken for this conversation. So I'm sure it's not the first time that we're going to talk. Thank you. Thank you for
Well,
being
thank
here.
you. And ciao,
Sure
ciao, and
we'll
a
see
big
more of
hug
your
to
magic
you.
soon.
Yes.
Thank
Thanks for what you're doing. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
you.